Hi there! Thanks for taking the time. In this video I'll show you how to build an interactive data app using Altair as the plotting library and Panel as the data app framework. The data app supports selections like these. You can see we select a subset of points in the plot, and whenever the selections change, we react to that, and in the example we react by updating a table, so the table here below. In principle, we could also update other things like additional Altair plots, other kinds of plots, or we could react in any way. Let's take a look at the code. So first of all, we need to start by importing Altair, Pandas and Panel. So if you've not already done it, please pip install Altair, Pandas, Panel. Next up, we need to start up Panel and say we will be using the vega JavaScript in our application. So that's why we mention vega here. And then we set our sizing mode to stretch width, so that everything just takes up as much width as it can, for example this plot. Then we read the data, and let's take a look at our data. So our data is really just a list of observations containing a species, an island, a peak length and other features. Let's start up the application. So in order to start the application, you write panel serve, the name of the script, and while developing we add auto reload so that the application will update whenever we save the script. And finally we add in show, because as you can see in 2 seconds that will just show the application in the browser, which is nice. So now we have the application running. So first of all, we start out here. We actually want to support dark theme. So this is dark theme, and as you can see, it's actually working. And you might notice up here that we have theme equals dark, and that's actually what we take down here and use to determine our theme. And then when we have the theme, if the value up here is dark, then we enable the Altair dark theme, and otherwise we just use the default theme, so this theme. We could also use other themes from Altair, so we could use this one, the Urban Institute, or we could use ggplot2 for example, but let's just stick to the Altair default one. So far we haven't really defined our plot here, but that's coming up next. So it's this part. We start out by defining an Altair selection interval, and we give it the name of brush, and then we use it to define our chart. So our chart is defined by adding our data, saying that we want the markers to be points, and then we encode our data. The X is the peak length, as you can see down here, and the Y-axis is our peak depth. We could try to see here how this, if we set the scale to go through 0, but then we don't see a lot of our points, so we don't want that. And then finally we set up a condition here, an Altair condition based on the brush. So we want the color to depend on this brush selection. So for example, if points are not selected, we want them to be light gray. We could also say light green, like this, but it's just not nearly as nice as the gray ones. So let's go back. Finally, we say the width and height of the chart should be the container, so it should try to maximize to the container which it's inside. We could also set a fixed height like this. So now it's not very high. We could increase that to 300 for example, but let's just use the container because that's really nice, because then we have this small icon here, a maximize icon, that we can use to investigate our points. like this. So that's the Altair part. In order to use Altair in panel, we put it into a vega pane, so a panel vega pane. You can read more about it in the panel documentation. So we have the panel documentation here. For example, we can see one attribute or argument here is the debounce. So the debounce is something about how much time it should wait before it raises the different events. So let's just try playing around with it. We could set the debounce to 1000. And let's just see here. So you can see here it waits a bit before it updates again. Let's just go back and set it to 10 milliseconds. So 10 milliseconds is pretty fast, and as you can see, Panel is a really fast data app framework. That's one of the reasons why I like it, because you can get this kind of speed. Okay, so now we have this plot defined, and we have put it into the vega chart. So next up, we want to add this filtered table. So Panel is a reactive data app framework. So here we say we want to take the vega pane, the selection of that, and then we want to depend on the brush. So param here is something special that enables you to have parameters on, for example, the selection here, that raise events that you can depend on. So now this function will be depending on the brush and the selections. So whenever our selections change, we will be getting this selection update. So let's just take a look at it. What is it really? So it's really just a dictionary. So what you can see is that the selection we get here is a dictionary with the beak length, and we can see it goes from 43 to 49 here, and the beak depth, it goes from 16.47 to 19 something. So this is what we get. And then we say if we don't get any selection, then we should just return this. And here you can see we return some markdown. It's really nice. Panel just knows how to display that. And if we get a selection, then we make a query. So let's just take a look at the query. What is the query here? Yeah, so it's a query saying, okay, the beak length should be between this and that, and the beak depth between this and that. So that's, again, really, really nice. And then we use the query here to filter our data frame. And then we put the data frame into a nice data frame pane that Panel provides. And again, you can read more about the data frame here. So we have a link to the documentation. You can do a lot of things with this data frame. So that's really nice. Then we put the filtered table into a row, give it a specific height, and add some scroll. So let's take a look again. We could set the height to 100, but then we would not see a lot of the data. So for this example, I think a height of 300 is nice. And the scroll, so yeah, we don't have to add that. The problem is just that then we can get a lot of points selected, and yeah, we can't see them all. So therefore I add the scroll. Like this. And finally I just wrap these up as two nice components that I put together in one component that is in a column. So I put the vega pane and the table inside a column. And yeah, next on the template, but let's just see if we didn't have the template, how would this really look? So then we would just have a very you could say raw application. We have the plot and the table, and that's okay, nice. But we want to have a nice template around it with, yeah, some kind of site header and a title. So now we have this, and then we can use, yeah, we just need to specify one color here, and then the whole app will update. So now we give it another color that's not so different. So we can, yeah, style our application like that, and then we put our component in the main area. We also have a sidebar. I haven't actually tried that. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so now it's over here in the sidebar, and there's not really enough space for this, but this is nice. Okay, that concludes the walkthrough of the code for this nice interactive data app. Thank you for taking the time.